Winterhouse should be fun. So far, not so fun.
I'm Carrie.
And I'm Iris.
And we're the Real Couchwives.
Amazing.
We finally got to the episodes with Lindsay and Carl that they've been teasing all season long.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of boring.
I know. I was kind of let down. I was so excited to finally see them. I am liking seeing them as a couple. How are you feeling about their kind of like couple dynamics?
Yeah, so I love Lindsay and Carl. I thought it was really cute the way that we got to see their kind of relationship progress over the last season of Summer House. Like, I'm sure, it's the best friends to dating story. Like, who doesn't love that? I was reading on Reddit though that they came off kind of stiff and uncomfortable, which I do agree with. Like, there was definitely something a little bit off, and it was kind of like they were trying to overproduce like the we're in love and we're perfect and we say babe 100,000 times.
That was a little obnoxious. Yeah, I can get that. I mean, to a certain extent, I do kind of wonder how much it is like them kind of feeling awkward, like coming into this group of people. And they're still in a new relationship. They're still kind of feeling each other out. They do at least benefit from the fact that they've known each other for so long. And they both are obviously like very well versed in how to be in reality TV. Like they've both been on Summer House this entire time, so they at least like shouldn't feel too awkward around the cameras. But I can understand why, like, coming into this group dynamic of people, you would instantly already feel like a little bit off put, especially when you're not the first people in the house, right? Like, I think every year when we watch Summer House, you kind of like set a tone when you're the first person to get to come into the house. And so like being kind of like the group that comes in later and like, they come in, they don't have a room to stay in. They kind of have to like see about potentially like kicking out one of the other like single people like out of their room. They do, luckily, I think like Austin or somebody like moves out of their room so that they can have a room. So that does feel like a little bit awkward. So I'll give them that. But yeah, it's I'll be curious to see them kind of interact more in Summer House too and see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot playing against them coming into the house. Like, there's so much awkwardness between Lindsay and Austin, and even like Lindsay and Jason.
Yeah.
And they are not Jason. Carl's already done some seasons where he's been sober. So, but like it is different for Lindsay, right? Like, like this is a very different type of experience for her. So I definitely understand that. I guess it was more just like it felt like they were trying to put on that they're like the perfect couple.
Yeah.
And also the fact that we didn't see, like, we saw them say, okay, we're going to try things out. And then we saw that they were official on social media. We do know that they already got engaged.
Yeah.
And so now it just kind of feels like this is being pushed at us, that it's just like, we're perfect now, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, they are in the honeymoon phase too, right? Like I think they said they've been dating like 5 or 6 months. So I guess that's just kind of funny when we're experiencing it kind of for the first time as viewers, but they've already built this relationship that they are now coming to the show with, and we just didn't get to see that part.
Yeah, that's so true. And as you say, like, it very much does feel like a Hollywood kind of like fairy tale kind of like wedding or engagement, right? Because they have had like the will they won't they for a few seasons. They've had the us testing the waters and it not really working out, and now for them to kind of like have finally made it official and having gotten engaged on the last season of Summer House. I think it's just it definitely has a beautiful storyline and it's perfectly packaged. And so as you can kind of like tell by like somebody who is like Lindsay, who is a PR person who knows how to like manage these kinds of storylines, I think it's been perfectly laid out. So I can see why the messiness of Lindsay in the yesteryear is definitely something that we're missing from this season of Summer House, of Winterhouse, and potentially maybe we will be missing it from this season of Summer House. I guess we'll kind of see how that goes.
That's it. And then like one of the things that came to mind too is just like, is Winterhouse and Summer House the most conducive to their relationship? Like, they seem like they're in such a good place and they're so much more level-headed. They come into the house and they're like, this is a cesspool, like this is disgusting. You could tell they're just like on a total different kind of like level and vibe.
Yeah.
we also know that Lindsay tends to get very reactive
Yep.
when she drinks and pops off, and that just doesn't seem to be, you know, what Carl 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 16.0, I don't know what he's at, needs right now.
Mhm.
So I wonder if like Summer House is just kind of like their
Yeah.
their finale. At the same
Yeah.
time, Lindsay is incredible television. You got to give it to
Ah,
her. Love her or hate her,
totally.
extremely polarizing. Reddit is like so like hit or miss with her,
Mhm.
but she's good TV.
She is great TV. And, that's actually so interesting. I think you're right. I think we could very much be seeing a narrative in which we have Carl and Lindsay kind of like almost like Tinsley in her last season of Roni. Like I know that it didn't really end up like with the fairy tale wedding that she was like hoping for.
Yeah,
And
let's hope they
we were
don't
hoping
follow that
for.
trajectory.
Let's hope not. But it was like a really beautiful kind of like end of her storyline on the Real Housewives of New York. With her like kind of going off to Chicago, she even like left mid-season to be able to do that, to get back together with Scott. And now with Carl and Lindsay potentially like it would be interesting to see if this could be their last season on Winterhouse, if they do kind of like choose to end that with an engagement, or maybe they'll end it like next year with a wedding or something.
Oh,
Um,
they're definitely gonna push it to the
yeah,
wedding.
because you definitely want Bravo to pay for some of that wedding, right? um, but yeah, it could be kind of quite beautiful to see that. And I think you're right. Like I think when they both first started coming to Summer House, they were in their early 30s, they were still like partying hardcore. This was like it totally makes sense for them to be in that environment. But um I think you're right. I think less and less it really makes sense for them to actually be in these settings. And to yeah, so who knows?
Well,
That actually kind of makes me a little bit more excited for Summer House now.
and well, this whole season is starting to feel like it's just like the preamble of Summer House,
Yeah.
especially because we already know all the things that are getting dropped on Summer House. Like we know that the engagement happens, we know that
Mhm.
something happens between Lindsay and Danielle, which
Mhm.
almost makes everything that they're fighting about right now so inconsequential
Yeah.
and just silly. The other thing too, just to note on their
Mhm.
relationship is just God has pointed out, Carl has had the best story arc
Yeah.
glow up of any reality television character. Like I love new Carl.
I know, it's so crazy, and, like, especially at the very beginning of Summer House, I was so anti-Carl. He could not do anything right in my mind. I had very strong
It's
feelings.
very messy.
Yeah, and now I totally get why everybody's, like, so protective of him. But that actually okay, so this actually makes me think of, like, something else that happened in this episode, was because they're having so much of an issue with this, like, timeline of their relationship. Um, and, one thing that I was kind of thinking about that is, everybody's saying, like, "Okay, was it September? Was it October? Are you saying that it was October so that you could have been, like, hooking up with like, allegedly hooking up or whatever it was that you were doing with Austin, and, like, now you're rewriting the story to make it convenient for you?" But I feel like and Lindsay brings this up in the episode where she's like, "They were slut shaming me back in the summer, and now they're just bringing it back into the winter house as well. It's doing the same thing." But they're also kind of like they have such a skewed vision where they're always going against Lindsay in favor of Carl, but, like, that also kind of implies that, like, there's no way that Carl hooked up with anybody in between September and October when he did finally become, like, monogamous with Lindsay. Like, they're always, like, skewing towards, like, Lindsay being the person that, like, has rewritten this whole thing because she, wanted to, like, make it right that she had, like, slept with Austin in that bedroom setting, not actually, like, in a platonic-y kind of way. And to be able to make the storyline with Carl work as if Carl, like, had no possibility that he could have hooked up with somebody else in that frame. I just think it's so
Yeah.
weird how they've, like, really skewed in on her and, like, completely ignored him.
Well, it's clear. Yeah, it's just so clear that they just hate Lindsay and they
Mhm.
just want to take her down at all costs.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings us to we were so wrong. We spoke too soon about good old Austin,
Good
who
old
we thought was
Austin.
also possibly having a redemption story arc, and then he
Mhm.
opened his big mouth and he just
Stir the
made
pot.
this entire he made this entire storyline. He hyped everyone up, right? He like
Mhm.
plants his little seeds and he tells all the girls and he tells Craig
Yep.
what had happened. And then when they
Mhm.
bring it up, he's like, "Oh, you guys are such bad friends. It
I
was nothing, and then you
know.
made it into this thing." So yeah,
Yeah, I
we spoke too
know.
soon. I take it back.
Spoke way too soon. Definitely have to watch the entire season before you can decide whether or not you like somebody.
Yeah.
No, and even in rewatching that scene of him like telling Paige, Amanda, and Sierra about like this like indiscretion that happened on the night of the wedding. Um, it's so interesting because I feel like he's telling this room of people just so that he can, like, say it on camera, because if you look at any of their actual reactions, like, you're like, "There's no way that that's a real reaction." Like, you guys all 100% knew this, and
They're
you
like,
knew.
"Oh, shocked Pikachu face."
"Oh, no. You what
Or what
happened?"
is it?
Yeah.
Shocked Kyle Richards face.
Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, like, it just felt like so kind of like, "Okay, this is the time of it's the evening before they come, it's time for me to tell you guys, like, this happens, like, it
That's
didn't
so
come up at any
true.
other point."
It's just been
Yeah.
eating me inside
Yeah, exactly. "Oh, I
for
completely forgot
however
that this
many
thing happened
months.
so many months ago. I think I should tell everybody about it now." Um, yeah, so that was interesting. What did you think of, Austin's attempt at an apology, though, to Lindsay in the last episode?
I feel like he just skirted around it and he
I
didn't even really
know.
apologize for anything. Because what he
Yeah.
did to her on Watch What Happens Live when Andy was asking, like, who's a better hugger and kiss her and date her or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, who do you like
He
friend
could
and
have
like
tossed
more?
her a bone. Like, he could have
One vote.
given her
She was
something. She
sitting
was
right
right
there.
there. It
Oh
was so
god,
mean.
it's so embarrassing,
And
like,
he's not
so
even with
mean.
Sierra, so I don't understand why he
Yeah.
felt the need to just, like, I don't know. That was
Yeah.
mean.
No, it's so
Um,
mean, and if you think about the fact that he was, like, filming, Southern Charm at that point as well, like, so he was kind of, like, semi-interested in Olivia at the time, like, I know that they were a little bit on again, off again during their season,
oh,
um,
that's a good point.
but yeah, it's, like, so I don't know, it's just so unfair.
Well, that the so that brings me to another thing actually is that this season is a little bit boring. I feel
Mm.
like they are really I don't know if that's just like putting people in a house for a few weeks and they're in Vermont and there's like not that much that can happen. So they just shuffle people in and out of the house to like give us something different to look at.
Yeah.
Or if it's also kind of that they're just filming all of these shows quite a bit. Like when they film versus when it airs
Mhm.
is quite a long time. There's
Yeah,
other shows in between,
yeah.
and then also with social media on top of it, we already know the outcome.
Mhm,
So they're fighting about this minuscule detail of the timeline of when they may or may not have started dating.
mhm.
When we know they actually ended up getting engaged,
Yeah.
they themselves, whatever did or did not happen, are fine with it.
Mhm.
So the reason that they're also scandalized by this, actually someone on Reddit brought up too, which is so funny, is the people who were so shocked by this is like Paige, who was hooking up with Andrea right before she was with Craig.
Mhm.
Craig was hooking up with
Kristen.
Naomi,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
allegedly
yeah.
Kristen, who she denies.
Whoops.
Uh, and then Kyle, definitely not one to speak
No,
ever.
I know. Oh my
So it's just
god.
like that's what also makes it so clear that this is just a Lindsay takedown. Like you
Mhm.
guys are not the moral police. You don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're right, and it's true. I was actually quite surprised by Kyle's, kinda like stances, I guess, in this episode. I really didn't expect that he was gonna have like, kind of have anything negative to say about Lindsay, and I did think it was very strange that he thought that that there was a world in which, like, she was just being sober temporarily to help Carl and like kind of like keep their relationship in like a good footing because he is sober. And like maybe he's been privy to conversations that we haven't been, and maybe she did tell him like, oh, I'm just going to be sober for like the next little while, like I don't intend on like never drinking again. But just the fact that he's kind of like bringing that up and like using that as a point against her and why like he's worried for Carl is like very surprised by that, considering how good of friends they have been for so many years too, right? Like
Yeah, and
yeah.
he's also not one to talk on that. Like like Amanda wanted to add in their prenup that, you
Yeah.
know, if there was something that happened because he cheated on her
Mhm.
while drinking, like
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
know. And to your other point too, like, just this whole you're so right, 'cause this whole build up that we've had for sorry, Winterhouse. I'm so confused.
It's really
I'm
confusing.
constantly getting ready for the next one. But the whole build up that we've had for this Winterhouse, like if you think about it, like last like February or March, I guess when they were filming, like we're seeing the Dumois blind talking about, what's allegedly happened at the house, like saying that like somebody's been kicked out, like we're all like pumped up by that. And
Which
then we have
allegedly Craig leaked that. I think
oh,
Luke on
really?
Watch What Happens Live or
Yeah,
somewhere basically alluded that he thinks it was Craig who
that
leaked
leaked
that
it. That
story.
that makes total sense. I would definitely believe that. Yeah, so or he like leaked it to somebody who could leak it for him. Like,
Oops, I dropped this.
hey, by the way, this thing is happening at this winter house. It's so crazy. Hope you don't tell anybody. Shh. But yeah, so you have the Dumois, you have like all of the social media stuff, you have this like um this wedding that happens, you have this fight between Lindsay and Austin happen on Watch What Happens Live. Honestly, by the time that we got to that part of the episode, I had actually completely forgotten that that Watch What Happens Live drama had happened. Like all of this feels like we're constantly playing catch up to like what we already know, and we're being reintroduced to things. You're like, oh yeah, I completely forgot that it happened.
Yeah.
She should be mad at him. And it just kind of makes like such a weird like viewing experience as like the audience. And I don't know how you could fix that because like either they'd have to have like really crazy like production timelines, like where they like turn around these shows like so quickly. Um, or we just have to be like okay with this happening. But I definitely do think that it kind of takes away from the whole like winter house experience, the like the drama of the show. It just doesn't feel like it, I don't know, it just feels kind of like a little bit boring this season. And I think I'm maybe giving it a bit of a pass for that because the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills was like so chaotic that like I wanted something boring.
Yeah, you need something a little bit low key. And that's the thing, and
Yeah.
maybe it wouldn't even have felt as boring if they didn't hype up this Lindsay and Carl coming so much
Mhm.
that we
Yeah.
had such high expectations from it. I
Mhm.
think another thing that's kind of going against it right now is just that the cast seems to hate each other. Like
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
just, the beginning of Summer House was just like, all these friends who like had this timeshare
Mhm.
and they would go there on the weekends in the summer and they would have fun and they would party and that was fun
Yeah.
to watch.
Mhm.
And now the times that they are having fun, it just feels like they're really forced kind of activities. And
Yeah.
then the rest of the time they just like don't seem to like each other. And that
Mhm.
like we watch Housewives for that. Like that's not what we watch this for.
Yeah, seriously. I think you're so right too. It really does feel like it's kind of like two factions almost like
Oh yeah.
in the beginning it definitely felt like more like a group of friends and there was obviously like some, disagreements here and there, some ridiculous arguments here and there, like ridiculous things that were happening all over the place. And then for a long time it did kind of feel like it was like Kyle, Lindsay, Carl, kind of like the core group against maybe like Hannah and Paige when they were kind of like the newcomers. There were always like some weirdos in the mix there, but for the most part, and then I feel like Paige and like her faction have just continued to like grow and get bigger. They got Sierra, now they've got like Austin and Craig, and like because they've got Amanda, they've got Kyle, and so it feels like they've gotten like so powerful. They've just continued to grow, and it's just like completely shifted the dynamics of the entire thing.
I I just had
Yeah.
a vision of Paige going like, "I'll show you a mean girl."
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it definitely does feel interesting. I wonder if that is gonna kind of result in like some switch ups happening in the house over the next like couple of years. I know for like Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, like we want it to feel more balanced, but I wonder for like just because like Garcelle and like Sutton feel like they're like on one side, like one little island by themselves, and it's like the Fox Force like five, but by themselves as well. And it's just kind of like not very
Yeah.
balanced. But I wonder for Summer House if that means that like they will actually just get rid of like the stragglers and kind of like just let the other group kind of like be there. I don't know if that would what would that would do to that dynamic there.
I don't know, but I just like I do feel like you need the OGs. Like they're the grounding people of this show, but at the same time, like
Mhm.
I don't think this show is like what the OGs need for themselves as people.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah, and I think that's just it, like, I think that Kyle and Amanda, like, seeing their relationship, I don't know if I already said this, but, like, seeing their relationship, like, this season has been, like, so refreshing and, like, so nice,
Yeah.
and so I'm, like, really happy that like, Kyle is getting to a place where he's, like, a functioning person, he can still be fun, he can still be silly, but he doesn't need to be kind of like the old version of Kyle that we've, like, seen in the past. And so I wonder if that'll kind of happen for Carl and Lindsay as well. And Lindsay especially because I know that she has had she could girl can be all up and down everywhere, like any kind of direction. Like, Lindsay is the one that's definitely a bit more of a hothead in between the two. So I'll be interested to see what happens with her as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Lots to see. Like I think there's definitely still potential there and it's not
Hmm.
like I want to stop watching the
No,
show, but
definitely.
it's I don't know if Winterhouse is hitting what they want it to be hitting for
Yeah.
us. But I'm
Yeah.
excited for Summer House, so if that was their intent,
Yeah.
then they did that.
They did a great job. It's true, and we probably only have, like, 1 more episode or so of Winterhouse anyways, so I'll be curious to see how it kinda, like, plays out, sets the stage for the summer house, and I'm excited to see the summer house again. I like seeing them in the Hamptons. I'd be curious to see them kinda, like, branch out a little bit more and do, like, different, like, activities and stuff around the house and, like, the town, I guess. That would be kinda cool.
Summer House is a classic.
Summer house
They
is
should
a
just like
classic.
bring back all the old crew, like the twins
Oh my god.
who have like babies and
Babies and
husbands.
the tall husbands. Oh, that would be interesting. That'd be a fun little reunion. Oh my god.
That would. So, in other Bravo adjacent news, we know that Buying Beverly Hills has come out on Netflix. But with Kyle Richards from Beverly Hills, it's her husband Mauricio, and it's all about the agency, which is his real estate firm. So, and that he runs and his daughters work there. So, did you have a chance to watch that?
I did. I got to watch a little bit of it. I have to admit, I didn't fully give it a full chance. I think I watched, like, the first episode or 2, and I have to admit, I didn't love it.
You didn't love it.
I didn't love it. I think I had a bit of an issue with, like, its release date, and I know that they don't really have, like, a lot of control over, like, when things get released. Netflix comes up with the schedule, and that is what it is, but, like, I feel like as it was being released was, like, the height of, like, nepotism baby TikTok, and so I
That's
was,
so
like,
true.
I was seeing so much content, like, every day about, like, nepotism babies, like, Gwyneth Paltrow, Hailey Bieber, like, all those people, and so, like, kind of, like, all of a sudden tuning into this show where, like, here is nepotism babies on a platter, like, here are, like, the 2 daughters, there's, like, this guy that's, like, friends with the daughter, so, like, all of a sudden, he's, like, getting $1,000,000 listings, like, here's this guy that this guy's gonna then, like, make and I know none of the names, so I'm very sorry for that, but, like, one of them, he's, like, literally making fun of, like, the older guy because he, like, tries so hard, and he's, like, making all these YouTube videos, and he's doing all this stuff to, like, sell all these properties, and he's like, "Yeah, well, like, okay," and I don't know any of the background of any of the other people, but it's like, "Yeah, that's what you have to do when you have to, like, work really hard and you don't just get,
Yeah.
like, handed a job because you're friends with, like, the boss's, like, daughter." So, I don't know, like, it put a bit of a weird taste in my mouth. Um, yeah, the houses were beautiful, I can totally give it that, but I don't know if it was the one for me. How
That's
how did you like it?
lots of
What's
thoughts,
your thoughts about it?
lots to
I
unpack there.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's totally fair. But the thing that was kind of interesting is that the other castmates were commenting on that. They were all
Mm,
just like, "Oh, I guess Alexia just gets all the things because she's the boss's daughter,
yeah, fair.
and we're just here having to work for it."
Yeah.
So it was kind of called out.
Okay.
And the nice thing that evens that out a little bit, or not evens it out, but makes it more tolerable, is that Alexia does seem very sweet.
Mm,
And she's like a
that's
likable
true.
character,
Yeah.
at least, but she definitely still doesn't fully get it. Like I don't think she acknowledges like the privilege that she has.
Mhm.
I think she thinks she, just has to get held to like a super high standard, but I think she's
Yeah.
just kind of held to the standard that everyone's held to. Um, That being said, it was interesting to see Mauricio in such a different type of role
Right?
because I feel like he just like shows up in Beverly Hills and he's always just super chill, like not
Yeah.
really that engaged, and like you definitely don't get a business vibe from him.
Mhm.
And here you do, like he turned his business on and you were like, oh
Yeah.
wow. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I
Um
I will say that there was one scene that I did see where he's, like, getting out of a car or something, and he's, like, talking in the on the phone or whatever, and it sounds like he's just saying, like, the words, like, "Business, business, 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 business," to, like, make it seem like he was like, "I'm really important, I'm really official, I'm talking big business here." Like, "Okay."
Probably. But what I was also I didn't realize was like the houses were crazy. Like they made the
Mhm.
houses on Selling Sunset look like tiny.
Oh, shit,
They
really?
were, yeah, there were some insane houses.
Mhm.
They were big. I
Oh,
think they were saying
cool.
that Mauricio was like he sold the first, what was it, like $1 million, no, yeah, the houses were super insane. They
Yeah.
were I didn't expect that for some reason. I guess I just had no idea how big the agency was. Like you always just
Mhm.
kind of hear it. Another thing that was interesting is that they talked about Kyle in Beverly Hills
Mm.
a lot in Real Housewives, but they not once featured her.
Oh,
So I wonder if she like
interesting.
can't go on Netflix, or I don't know what that's
Yeah.
about.
No, you're right. I think she might have, like, a non-compete clause or something, like, it's very possible.
Yeah, like, is he even, like, Farrah's birthday, like, Farrahween was one of the
Oh,
episodes, which she's
really?
obviously at. It's at her house since her daughter's birthday.
Oh my god.
She wasn't there. Farrah sounds exactly like her. Like,
Yeah.
if you close your eyes, you would think that it was Kyle.
Oh my god, that's so
Um,
crazy.
but yeah, I don't know, like, I watched it, it was fun. Something that came out on Reddit too is that Mauricio talks about the agency and how they got started, and there
Mhm.
was literally no mention of the Hiltons,
Mm.
because, he did start with Kathy Hilton, like, husband, I think
Yeah.
Rick Hilton, right? He was working for his company, and
Mhm.
then he basically left and went on his own, and there was kind of some like whispering that he started trying to poach people when they had like a
Um,
gentleman's agreement.
yeah, of course.
And Mauricio says that he did not.
Mhm.
But it's just so interesting because we know that whole thing that took place caused so
Mhm.
much drama in what we saw in Beverly Hills, where like
Yeah.
Kyle wasn't invited to I think Nikki Hilton's
Yeah.
wedding.
Yeah.
They didn't specifically say it was because of that, but it was kind of like highly alluded to.
No, no, that's a good point. Yeah, because I think if you think about, like, I think it was season 4 when that all was, like, starting to happen and stuff, like, that's definitely, like, a big part of drama that's happening on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And then again, I think he's not even him and, like, the children are not invited to the wedding specifically because, well, I don't know specifically because, but I think
Yeah.
a contributing factor as to why is because of this kinda, like, fractured relationship between them because of his decisions to do that. So that's interesting. Yeah, I saw that he actually was on Watch What Happens Live, and he talked about it the other day as well, which I thought was interesting. His take on like why he didn't talk about the Hiltons kind of being there to like help set him up. Um, and yeah, I just thought that was a little bit of well, talking about nepotism babies.
That's so
Like
true.
like, I feel like it's just, like, such a, like, I don't know, you're completely omitting one whole part of this, like, puzzle, right? Like, because Kyle was pretty open about the fact that, like, they were struggling and that, like, Kathy and Rick had taken him on to kind of, like, help them out as, like, a family, and then we continue to see them grow bigger and bigger and, like, get bigger and bigger houses,
Yeah.
in Beverly Hills, and, like, a big part of that is because of the leg up that they were given by, his in-laws,
Yeah,
so
and
I
to
do
just
think
cut it out of the history
yeah.
is like they could have given them a nod or something,
Yeah,
like
exactly. Just, like, mention it, like,
yeah.
it costs you
Well,
nothing to just mention it, and, like, it's not like you're saying, like, "I owe all my success to Rick Hilton for, like, setting me up." But, yeah, like, you could still, like,
well, I think actually maybe a reason they did that too is like one of the core storylines is that um someone was trying to take someone who was on his team, but they're all still within the
um
agency, but are like different teams.
mm,
And there was someone who like was trying to quote unquote poach another kid, the one who was
yeah.
friends with Alexia, and he's like, oh, like I spent so much time like mentoring him.
Oh,
So
interesting.
maybe they thought it would make him look really bad.
Right, if he was kinda, like, being a bit of a hypocrite for that.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't know.
interesting.
It's interesting, but it's just so funny to see the Bravo universe expanding into the world of
Yeah.
Netflix.
I kinda love it, I'm here for it. That's
What's
interesting.
next? You
Uh,
can't run. You can't run from Bravo.
you cannot. Do you think it's, like, it's impacted your kind of view of Mauricio at all or kind of the family in general? Like, do you think it kind of impacted how you've seen them?
One thing actually that was interesting was Farah comes off as like super poised and
Mm,
professional and like um you know, not that like she doesn't let herself have a lot of fun, and I feel like that's
mm,
not what you see on social media. Like it was
mm.
actually a little surprising, and her relationship with her sister is really sweet. It's like kind of
Oh,
maternal.
that's nice.
Mauricio, I don't know. It was yeah, it was interesting to see him in a more professional setting. I don't know if I
Mhm.
feel that differently about him.
Okay,
'Cause to your
that's
point
fair.
too, like, you don't know how much is just like, "Okay, Mauricio, like, come and stand in front of this really big mansion." Um,
You're gonna
um,
look really important and good in front of this $100 million
yeah.
mansion.
But he obviously built a really great career for himself,
Yeah,
but I really liked looking at the homes, honestly, that was the best part
yeah.
of it for me, and the drama wasn't too big. Another thing I liked too was, like, it was really more about the workplace drama, like, they talk about poaching, they talk about splitting commissions. It
Mm,
was way less of, like, the selling sunset, like, Barbie,
right.
just, like, fights.
Oh, that's
So,
cool. Okay,
yeah,
that's kind of
I don't know.
interesting. Yeah, I feel like I
It's
would, like, probably give it a shot then if it like, I
yeah.
think maybe I just need to, like, get a little bit further into it to kinda, like, let the story develop and stuff
Yeah,
to be
it
interested.
was fine. Like,
Yeah,
I enjoyed the watch. I
yeah.
definitely like, I
Will
wouldn't
you
go
watch
and
the next
rewatch.
season?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, okay, cool, nice, love that. Amazing, that's cool. I do think that it's interesting to kind of see how Mauricio's, like, storyline has kinda developed, like, as you say, to, like, see him, like, as a businessman now when I feel like we've seen him for as, like, for lack of a better term, a stoner for, like, the last,
Yeah,
like
that's it.
like, I feel like that's very much, like I think in, like, around, like, season, like, 9 or 10, he just kinda, like, embraced that that's what his, like, plot line was kinda gonna be on Beverly Hills, and he just, like, stopped being kinda, like, trying to hide it. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure. Just like some casual light viewing.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. I love it.